It's a very complicated case. It's hard to get your arms around, and I think they did a fabulous job overall.
5 weeks, dozens of witness testimony, and 50 hours of deliberation, the jury in Bangor's triple homicide comes forward with their verdicts. Good evening, I'm Samantha Edwards. Chris Fascini is off tonight. Nicholas Sexton and Randall DeLuce both charged with murdering 3 people before lighting a car on fire with their bodies inside. Nearly 2 years after the murders, they received their fates. Nicholas Sexton guilty in the murder of Nicole Lugden and guilty of arson. Randall DeLuce guilty in the murders of Nicole Lugden, Daniel Borders, and Lucas Toscano, and guilty of arson. These verdicts bring closure to the families and friends of the victims, but for the defendants, they continue to point the finger at one another.
Guilty of count 2, murder against Nicole Lugden as either a principal or as an accomplice. Guilty.
As the guilty charges are read, it was Randall DeLuce who was found guilty on all counts. Nicholas Sexton guilty on 1 murder and an arson charge. A surprising verdict even for the defendants, as DeLuce turns to his longtime friend in anger, saying it's all about you.
He's obviously distraught and disappointed in the outcome. It wasn't surprising to me. He's maintained all along that this was Sexton's doing, that he didn't have any direct role in it, and it comes as no surprise that he had those comments.
Still, the jury over the 50 hours of deliberation seemed to be struggling with Sexton's testimony, where he pointed the finger at DeLuce, saying he accidentally shot Daniel Borders, then killed Lucas Toscano and Nicole Lugden to cover it up, before forcing Sexton to burn their bodies inside the car.
It's not what we expected. Nick is obviously upset, but I have the utmost respect for that jury panel, 50+ hours.
We are extremely distraught because it appears as if the jury accepted in part the testimony of Mr. Sexton.
It's curious that the 1 count that he gets convicted of, the state has multiple confessions from Mr. DeLuce that Mr. DeLuce did it. So it was just a weird scenario.
Confessions the state agreed not to use in order to try both men together.
I could not use Mr. DeLuce's statements that he had previously provided to law enforcement, blaming everything on Mr. Sexton. Obviously, it came out well against Mr. DeLuce, even though I didn't use his statements, so I can't second guess that.
Still, as the defendants and prosecutors question what they could have done differently, the families and friends of the victims prepare to move forward.
50 hours of deliberation, the families stayed, they were here, they were dedicated, and they're grateful for the process. The jury process works.
Now, families and friends did not want to be interviewed after the verdicts were passed down. At this point, there is no sentencing date set. Prosecutor Lisa Marchese says the state will go for a life sentence for Randall DeLuce. As for Nicholas Sexton, she says she will research similar cases, but a life sentence is not out of the question. Marchese says the state will also wait to see what sentence Sexton does receive before they decide if they will retry him for the murders of Daniel Borders and Lucas Toscano.